All right, welcome into BuffaloPlus.com's.
It's time to give your opinion on the Bills and the NFL. Let's talk football live. Now, here's the 13 Wham Sports Team.
All right, now welcome into Let's Talk Football Live, presented by Connors and Ferris, Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I'm Jenna Cottrell. As you can tell, a little bit different background. We're doing a work from home edition of Let's Talk Football Live. Week 15 of the season. The Bills 10-3. They picked up that big win over the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. The Bills feeling pretty good in this one. A lot at stake. The AFC East title, the Bills could win for the first time since 1995 if they do win on Saturday against the Broncos. Mike, I want to start with you. What's just the vibe that you felt from this team as they get ready for such a huge game and one that we haven't seen like this in quite some time?
Yeah, I think they're a nervous. I mean, in fact, yeah, that's a little of the Bills today. Snowball fights. You know what it is? I think they've self spot themselves spot. But they're not like they're clinching something. Games to go. I mean, in the season, Saturday, at least in terms of they have play for. I think this spot meant to get to play. You love the snowball, didn't you?
I love the snowball stuff. It seems like they're a very loose team. Dan, what do you think? I mean, that to me is a sign of a team having fun. And while it's not all fun and games, it is football. And a team that's having fun is usually a team that's winning.
Yeah, I think that helps. I always think that people have always made the comments that life's better when you win. Your food tastes better. Football coaches have said, their wives are prettier when they win, and everything's better, when you win. So
wait a minute.
That's outrageous.
My wife is prettier.
The show's already
off the rails. I love it.
Already off the rails. But no, I think that this is a team that understands what's at stake, but understands that, it's not the end of the world going to Denver, but they have a massive opportunity. And like we've talked about throughout this week on BuffaloPlus.com, if you want to look at the podcast that we have of what this game could mean. I know somebody commented on us earlier and said, that how do you know that they're going to be in the playoffs? Like, they're going to be in the playoffs. Like, let's be real. Like, they're not going to lose out the rest of the way. They're going to be in the playoffs. It's just a matter of where they fall in the playoffs and if they get their first division title since 1995. So I think there's a lot at stake here. And Mike will talk about it too. Just the fact of these last three games mean a lot because you don't want to be the 4 seed in this conference and have to play the Chiefs in the second round. So you are kind of already moving, your chips around, kind of wanting to know where you stack up. So, I think this is a loose team, but I think this has been a loose team most of the season. Jenna, all the times that we've been up at practice earlier in the year before they changed COVID protocols again, you've seen the wide receivers dancing, Isaiah McKenzie doing splits, like all of those things. So I think they are a laid-back team that isn't treating this week like any other game. It's the dumb cliches, but they've been working for this team this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a huge point and very important for this team. Like, this is the identity of this team, is a team that likes to have fun. But I think that speaks to the fact that they've been able to have so much fun on the field as well. I just want to say, too, that video of the snowball fight that we just showed was shot by Terry Pagula on his flip phone.
He does have a flip phone.
He does have a flip phone.
Do flip phones have video? I remember.
I don't know, Mike. What was your first phone like?
You would be the authority.
My first phone, it looked like a. It was a long time ago. Seriously, even the flip phone. Remember things? Maybe the not. But in terms of what you mentioned, the idea, all the everything that goes with, because look. Playoff race in the AFC, top to bottom. Look, still think amongst everybody, you're going to go 2-7. If the Bills end up as Pittsburgh or whatever it is, I think huge disparity between good. Pittsburgh can get some things going, but Tennessee, Cleveland, look, Baltimore. I mean,
Mike, you're cutting out a little bit.
Yeah.
Your mic's just kind of glitching in and out. Some of the comments are rolling into. I didn't know if that was just me, but we are getting some comments that you're cutting in and out. I love your pontificating. People want to hear you pontificate.
So Mike will try and work on being able to.
Mike has been the tech guru of setting up this work from home studio. Mike deserves all this credit for the logo and the Connors and Ferris in your top right corner. Mike was the mastermind behind all of this. So while he tries to figure that out, Jenna, I mean, how big are these last few games?
I mean, they are huge because while I feel like a couple years ago was even last year, okay, they clinched the win against the Steelers. That means that they're in the playoffs, but they knew they weren't going to win the division in terms of the AFC East. But now with the chance to be able to win the division and then go for more, like now with the restructuring of the playoffs too, only the 1 seed getting the bye, you realistically don't want to see the Chiefs until the AFC Championship game. So if you can position yourself to not play them or play them as late as possible, that's going to be the most advantageous spot for you. Now, of course, you can lose another game, but still, I mean, that's what you don't want to be.
Right, and I talked to I have a Tennessee friend, a Tennessee fan who's a friend, and he said that he's hoping the Titans can jump the Bills somehow so that they don't have to play the Chiefs. Like other teams are thinking that same way too. So it's a the way that this stacks up. And also for some reason, if the Bills, they could be hosting the AFC Championship game, say the Chiefs were to lose in a spot, right?
2 seed, you put yourself in position to home for 2 games and then be home for the AFC Championship game.
Mike, I'm sorry. I think your audio. Maybe you just go off the Wi-Fi on your phone. Maybe do that. Maybe that will help. All right. Well, Dan, let's get more into it then. Sean McDermott was talking about all week. We've heard the players, and we've all been asking them in terms of reporters just about how important this game is. But what was the kind of responses that you heard from the team, as we know what's at stake this upcoming weekend, but it's also the point of how does the team approach it now that it's within their grasps?
Yeah, I think they did a nice job of walking the line between being like, well, it's not that big of a deal, it's just another game. And then they were also like, the guys here want to do something special. They understand the 25-year division championship drought that is here. So they're not sitting here being like, it doesn't matter, when this is really what they've been planning for and trying to build to since Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott took over. So what this would mean to the status and to validate what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have built can't be understated. Just the magnitude of what they've worked for and the process and the highs and the lows. And you look at, you go back to Peterman and all those and Calvin Benjamin and the mistakes and the hits and Josh Allen, like all of those things are encompassed in this division title that they're trying to chase down in their 4th year. You have guys that are locked up long-term where this could be a sustainable team, a sustainable formula that the Bills could be, using for the next 4 to 5 years. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's not say that they're going to be the Patriots and dominate 2 decades. I think there is something to this where once you win a division title and you kind of get that monkey off their back, it changes the perception also what it is around the league. We know what it was like. We'd always ask players that came into Buffalo, the playoff drought. This team hasn't made the playoffs in so long. That was checked off the list. So it's just another thing that, that chapter, and Jenna, as you said, almost turn the page or write a new book.
Yeah, I think when I look at this team, like the first monkey on their back was the playoffs. And then it was always, okay, well, they need to win the AFC East. And then it was, okay, they've been to the playoffs now. How can they get a playoff win? And we've seen this team take incremental steps to get closer and closer to the goal. Obviously, the goal is a Super Bowl, but, those don't happen all the time in terms of for a team. So I think what you're seeing is this team slowly take those steps forward. Not even that slowly, actually. I mean, this last year, they were coming off a playoff loss, but we've seen under the progression of Josh Allen, Brian Dable, the Bills offense, the Bills defense playing a lot better as of late. I mean, Mike, let's go to you. Okay, wait. I think you're good.
Okay. So the biggest thing, you mentioned that progression, Jenna. I think it's a step in the wrong direction with that loss to Houston. Because, they made the playoffs the first time. No one expected it. But it broke the drought. And then they basically stripped the team apart, drafted Josh Allen, because they knew they were sort of starting over. And, you miss the playoffs and all. And then you come back and you make it. And the goal then was to win a playoff game. There's no doubt. They made it. The team could have won, probably should have won, had that lead in Houston and didn't win. So now you go into this season with absolutely high hopes. I mean, the Bills are good, and the Bills can beat anybody in the conference. But the question is, like I said, I look at that AFC and I'm thinking, you tell me I won't even say easy game. Tell me the team you want to play in the first round of the playoffs.
Yes.
You want to play the Colts? You want to play the Ravens?
Frisky, yeah.
The Browns? I mean, it could be, honestly, it could be the Dolphins maybe. I don't know who the team is. Dan, who you got?
I think I'd want to play the Raiders, but they're sinking faster out of the playoff.
Yeah, they play tonight. Yeah,
I think that's the team that I would want to play. But I think that the three top teams in the conference right now are the Chiefs still, the Bills, and I don't want to mess with the Colts. And Mike, you and I have talked about this, that's another team that is built that if they were to get a lead and they have that defense, is a scary team that I would not want to have to chase from behind.
Okay, so here's the way I look at some of those teams. I think some of them can beat anybody, but I don't know if they're the team that's going to win 3 games, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like I don't know if the Ravens, just with the way they throw the ball, are going to go to the Super Bowl. Could they beat, say, the Bills and then the Steelers and then the Chiefs?
They need to win a playoff game just like the Bills.
Exactly. Yeah. They do. But I look at the Titans. You're telling me the Titans can't beat anybody in a game? You're telling me the Browns can't beat anybody in a game? I mean, there is no, heck, everybody starts to make you nervous. If you're in the NFC, does anybody really want to play Washington in one game when they're going to be at home? Now, that team's not going to the Super Bowl, but they could beat anybody in one game. So, Jenna, to the point you said about the progression, you're right. But, man, it would have been nice if they would have gotten that win and then been looking to, say they would have lost to Kansas, whatever it ended up being. Yeah. But in this case, there's a lot of pressure on them going into the game because they're having a great season and they're going to be at home. So, this is what we think. Speaking of that, Josh Allen was asked about winning the AFC East, in terms of what it would mean. So let's take a listen.
This division's been dominated by a team, in Foxborough for a long time. And they've had a lot of sustained success, and that's kind of the mold. That's what people want to be, and how they do it and how they've done it is what people want to do. So, it's nothing that I can control, nothing anybody else can control other than put our best foot forward. And, we understand what's at stake every time we step on the field from here on out. And, we understand that we have a chance to do it. But our goal is to play Saturday and put our best forward and try to win a game.
That to me is like 20 seconds of I don't want to say too much. I'm going to say a lot of words, but the meeting's just going to be yeah, we know, guys. We know what's going on.
Yeah. And a lot of comments.
Dan said at the beginning, we're they do all these things and then they quickly compartmentalize. In that case, it's McDermott speak. But you think they sort of play that way? Like they have fun. They're saying a lot of stuff. They're doing all that, but it's the result of them performing on the field. And if you can both, why not?
Yeah, a lot of comments pouring in. Also, appreciate the comments that helped Mike figure out his mic situation. Very happy that Mike, I know there are a lot of people out there that listen to this show just for Mike's take. So I'm glad that we didn't disappoint anybody. But a lot of people talking about they'd want to play the Dolphins. And I think that's a fair point. Mm-hmm. And somebody said Josh has their number. I can't remember who said it. And Josh has played massive games. Steven. So I agree with that. I also watched the Dolphins play the Chiefs for 22 plus minutes and had a 10-point lead. And I saw that Dolphins team is getting confident every single week. I don't know, that's a Dolphins team that I think will be we'll be talking about next year as they're the team that is going to be battling for the division.
I compare this year's Dolphins to last year's Bills.
Completely. Led by their defense, their offense has to do just enough.
Right. And, they got a quarterback that can make some plays, but you don't know if you trust him. Now, he's not a mistake guy, maybe like Josh was. He also doesn't seems so far. I mean, he's still a rookie. The big high-end plays, but he's good. And that defense is really good, and the secondary is good, and they rushed the quarterback. And, it's going to be interesting because the Bills play Miami that last week of the year. So we talk about resting players and things that could come up. Do you really want to put Miami in the playoffs if you're in the Bills spot?
Scott asked a good question. Based on the strength of schedule, do you think the Bills have the shot at the 2 seed in the AFC? Also, if they win out with great numbers, will Allen have a chance at an MVP?
Yes to both. I think they have a chance to take the number 2 seed away from Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is a sinking ship. They still need to play a couple of divisional games. They still have to play the Browns. They're trying to hang on to their division. Like, they have a lot to play for as well. And as we've talked about all year, if they win out, the Bills will be at 13-3. Like, that 13 wins, it gets you into serious MVP conversations. That's all we said. We said Josh had to put up big numbers and the Bills had to win. A quarterback would have to put up massive numbers at a 9-10 win on a 9-10 win team. It just really doesn't happen all that much. Perfect example is Russell Wilson, a guy that has always played really well, but his team has won 9-10 games, and he really hasn't been in the picture. You look at those teams, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, teams that win 12-plus games. So, yeah, Scott, I think they have a great chance. And like I said, I think he's in the conversation. It's up to if Mahomes can slow down at all.
Yeah. I agree with Chris's comment of I think J.A. should be considered as a second in the MVP, a.k.a. the runner-up. Considering I think Mahomes is just – he's Patrick Mahomes, and everyone's going to talk about how he's the phenom.
The Dolphins game, what do you have, 3 picks in that game?
Yeah.
3 picks.
Career high.
He's been so good. And, and I think narrative drive the MVP voting, right? Like, this year it was all set up for Russell Wilson to win it. And if people aren't familiar with the way it works, if you're a voter, and none of us are voters for the MVP, but if you're a voter, you get 1 vote. You don't vote first, second, and third like I have.
Right.
That's not the way it works. You vote 1 person. So, somebody has to believe Josh Allen is better than both of the other guys. So there's no splitting of votes, or Allen gets a bunch of seconds and some firsts.
It's not like the Heisman.
Right. Yeah. Not. So it's just a single vote. So I think if it was 1 guy ahead of him, maybe, but I think it's going to be hard because Rodgers has been.
Yeah.
And also Derrick Henry has a chance to run for 2,000 yards.
Yeah, but nobody's picking the run.
Yeah.
Just saying.
He might get I wonder if they'd even split that up. And then to the other point about the 2 seed, that's absolutely a real thing. And let's face it. Let's just put it right down to what it is. In the second round, it's a very good chance it could be Bills and Steelers. If both teams win their first game, wherever they are, would you rather play that in Pittsburgh and have to travel during COVID, dealing with all the issues? And it's not just the COVID part. It's the, we've said there's been teams sitting on a tarmac. The Bills have been in that spot. Players' tests come in. Like, all these things can happen. Jenny, you were at the game Sunday. The Steelers came in on Sunday because of issues, COVID. So, you don't want to deal with any of that unless you have to. If they could stay home for 2 games, if not 3, if the Chiefs were to get knocked off, come on, that's a big advantage. So they want that. Does that mean you play all your starters and everything in that last game? I don't know, but it could mean a lot. And if you think that's what it is, I think you're going to try to win that game.
Sorry, I'm reading some of the comments and they're funny.
Oh, I thought Clyde Alverson had a great comment just a little while back. Said, read somewhere that Josh Allen is 5-0 against top 10 pass defenses this year. Bills shouldn't be afraid to play anyone. And they're really, I don't know that stat exactly. I don't know that stat per se, but I do know that last year the Bills faced the 7th worst passing defenses throughout the league. Their schedule was the 7th worst. They, heading into this year, they were going to play the 7th toughest schedule. That was the largest jump for any single team. And that was one of my big concerns. That was something that Warren Sharp told me heading into this year. It was a big concern. Now, that can obviously change because you look at some teams' injuries and other teams don't pan out as well. But Josh has checked off a lot of boxes for long-term success, because that was the thing, right, Mike? We talked about that he could be, after 2 years, he could be Mitch Trubisky. And you look at how that happened. Josh, last year, in most of his career, struggled against man coverage. That's why the Patriots were just abusing him at times because of man coverage. And he started off the year on fire, lighting teams up for man coverage. And then they went to zone coverage against Kansas City and Tennessee, and Josh struggled. Well, then they went and played the Niners, who play a lot of zone coverage, and Josh just torched them. He is becoming a guy that is figuring out those problems, figuring out the answers to those problems he's facing. So I agree, Clyde. I think this Bills team can score on anybody. And also, there aren't that many dominant defenses that they would have to face. I mean, Indy would probably be the best one, Mike.
Yeah, and Miami's defense is pretty good too.
They're good.
That's true. That's true.
So you look, and again, these are single games. This is single games. And I didn't say anything about anybody being afraid of anybody. I'm just saying these are good teams, well coached. Even I'm telling you, I think the Browns are a very dangerous team. The Browns might be a little bit, their defense isn't any good, but man, they can run the ball. And all these teams seem to be able to run it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's overrated.
Man, Cleveland can run it. Baltimore can run it. Tennessee can run it. So not the strength of the Bills in that sense, but the Bills offense can score on all those teams too. So I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun playoffs. That's why I say, man, if you can get to the highest seed and you can be at home, do it.
Go for it.
There's only 5 this year. So and that's Kansas City, obviously.
Let's go to the poll too, because I think this also had a lot of people talking just in terms of AFC East title in 2020. What would it mean to you, Bills Mafia? Just another step. I feel like this winning shows a true progression, even in the fan base.
They're all lying. They're all lying.
Just another step. Like, wow, very calm, cool.
All of you Bills fans that voted in that poll are liars. Because you're telling me, what about, you would have to throw out all your retro T-shirts and hats that you have. Now you got to get new ones. Like this is how much the fans have bought in to Sean Dermott and this process. Like it is incredible to be like, and like I said, some of the comments here. I don't care if Josh Delatorre says, I'd rather see Josh win a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP than a league MVP. It's like this team on the point where you get to pick and choose what you want. Like, I don't really want that, but I'll take that instead. Like,
I'm pretty sure everyone would also take that over a league MVP.
The AFC East title,
but understandable.
Let's say the Bills get into they win the AFC East, they get in the playoffs, 2 or 3 seed, they win a game, maybe even make it to the AFC Championship game, like whatever, and then you lose. So you look back on the year and you go, we won the division, won a playoff game, maybe won 2, like it is big time progress. Maybe gave Kansas City all they could handle. Right? And now you look back with pride on the division title because New England wins it every year. You're now the king of the division. Let everybody come find you. If you win the division and then lose a playoff game, very hollow. So if I'm a fan sitting there now, I'm with them on the one step because right now it's great. We're going to win the division, move on to the next thing. And so that's what you want. The other thing when we talked about positioning was you don't want to be 4. You don't want to be 4. I mean, look, you want to win a division, have a home game. But if you're 4, you get the toughest wild card, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get Kansas City. Yep. And I just don't think that's what you want. First of all, you want the shot that somebody knocks off the Chiefs. And secondly, you want to get there maybe with another home game and not have to go there for your second playoff game. So
I feel like the Titans could beat the Chiefs.
I agree with you. In a single game, I think they could. Yeah. I just think their defense is, man, they're not good. Titans defense is not good.
There are a lot of bad defenses.
Yeah. Like the Bills defense taking that turn, like other teams have not done that. They've just, it's like, just because they struggled at the beginning doesn't mean they're going to get better, which we've seen from other teams.
Cleveland puts the ball in the air. They can score points. They can run it on anybody, but they have a tough time stopping anybody. Indy is a well-coached team.
Mm-hmm.
Dadgummit at quarterback. Like, that's interesting. Give him a lead. Maybe, they have a shot. They would have a shot in games. Frank Reich's a heck of a coach. It's that, but the Bills have the edge at quarterback there.
Yeah.
The edge on everybody except Kansas City. So that's a good spot to be in, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been 1995, their last AFC East title. I was looking it up today because I was bored. Tommy Boy came out. Forrest Gump won Best Picture.
Didn't like that movie.
I said
Waterfalls was out.
Yes, Creep came out. So it's been quite. Josh Allen, I looked up, wasn't even born till
he wasn't born yet.
Yeah.
So I was covering that team.
Shocking.
You two? Where were you two?
We were 4.
I was 4.
Yeah, we were in preschool.
Yeah,
and
I had kids in preschool. That team was those teams were interesting because it was right after they had been in the Super Bowl. And it started to change. The team started to age a little bit. And then the next year is when they lost in the playoffs to Jacksonville, and Jim retired after that. So it was something. That team ended up going to Pittsburgh. Bruce Smith didn't play in the game, said he had the flu. I remember being in Pittsburgh, and we're like, what do you mean Bruce isn't here? Because there was no social media at the time, and people started to hear about it. So it was a strange time. Again, sort of the end of that whole Bills era. Like I said, then the next year it was losing in the playoffs at home to Jacksonville. But they had been on such a run, it was a tough time. But they were still good. I tend to compare this Bills team more to like 1988 when they came out of nowhere to make – they had talent, but they came out of nowhere. They made the playoffs.
-3.
I was just saying.
Well, that team made it all the way to the AFC Championship game and lost to the Bengals. Boomer Esiason and the Bengals in Cincinnati. And then, then the next year they lost to the Browns in a phenomenal playoff game. Ronnie Harmon dropping the ball. Doug Embledge still contends that I yelled and Ronnie heard me and dropped the ball, which obviously is not the case because I was standing right in the end zone when he dropped the ball. And then the Super Bowl run. But the reason I say that is because that was a young team. They were full of everything. They had a ton of talent. They started the no-huddle offense. They were killing people with it. And that was in 88 and 89. So that's what it seems more like to me than it was 95. Just happened to be the last year they won it.
Don't worry, be happy came out in 1988.
Tons of good comments that we are seeing. They come up on the side of our comments chat of our stream. So we are seeing all of the comments if we don't have a time. Sometimes Mike or I give off on a tangent and then we miss like 7 good comments. There was one that Richard Rush, Mike can't believe that you don't like Forrest Gump.
No,
people
didn't like it.
Some people telling us the age and all of those things. Derek Presty says you crack Mike, you crack him up. So
yeah. Well, the Forrest Gump box of chocolates, I just never got it. I just didn't.
Stop it.
I just didn't get. I saw the movie. Did you two see the movie?
Yes,
of course.
And you liked it?
It's good. I'm not going to put it.
One of my favorite movies.
No, not good.
Oh, that brings me into a good point. A comment that was much earlier. Somebody was saying a film critic is John Brown. Apparently, John Brown is a big film critic, movie guy. That's what Josh Allen says. John Brown will not be playing Saturday. I know somebody had a question about that earlier. John Brown will not play. I didn't listen to the call. Mike, did you hear? I mean, I know he's practicing off IR, but it hasn't been activated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. He's not ready yet, so there's no reason to activate him yet. Then they'd have to make another roster move. So they will just keep him inactive. And I think it sounds like he could be back. What happens is the window opens up when you get off of IR. So they just decided not to do it yet.
Yeah,
and probably a little more than that. Yeah.
And I think Triggs makes a good point. Keep John Brown fresh for the playoffs. I think that's a great point. He has been banged up all season long. And I think it was the Tennessee game or Kansas City game where he went out there and tried to gut it out and dropped the ball on the first drive and just didn't look great to begin with. So I think that the way the offense is clicking right now, I don't think you have to rush him back. And I agree with Mike. You talk about not these last 3 games meaning a lot, but not putting guys at risk or anything like that. I think this is a prime example of it.
Yeah, a guy like John Brown in these circumstances would sit. I'm talking about, at what point do you rest your regular starters, or you just determine that it's not worth it for us? Because keep that in mind too. They're not getting a bye. No one is getting a bye except Kansas City. I mean, unless something drastic happens in this case. By the way, Jenna, we did have some comments, right? Should we put the comments up that we had after the poll?
Yes.
Here we go.
Brian Washburn saying, reminds me a bit of the 88 Bills. Oh, look at that, Mike. Really good and exciting after many dark years, but not quite there. Bring the core players back over the next few years.
And move up to the next thing. This one's a good one too. First time I can really enjoy it, not because I'm not a fan, but in his country, it was just highlight shows. And our commenter was from Denmark, and he was following us on Twitter and talking about the fact that seeing the Bills now, his country in Denmark, they're showing more NFL games live. So in the older days, you would just pick up some highlights. So now over in Europe and in different places, they're seeing the Bills live. I got followed today by the Bills backers of Italy on Twitter today. There's Bills fans everywhere. They're all over the place.
Cool. Did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice. All right. Well, we talked about John Brown. Now he's dealing with, or he had been dealing with, a knee and ankle injury. So like you guys said, he will not be playing this upcoming weekend, but we'll go to our UR Medicine Sports Medicine injury report.
I do have one thing. I know somebody has made the comment before, and I know it's because the altitude in Denver plays a factor in some athletes that have the sickle cell trait. John Brown does not have the sickle cell disease. Richard Rush made that comment. It's been brought up. He carries the gene. I just went back and looked at it. He does not have the trait. That is not playing into a factor of why John Brown is not playing on Saturday. I know some other players, I can't think of the last, one of the guys from ESPN was another guy, Ryan
Clark.
Ryan Clark couldn't play because he had sickle cell. John Brown, that is not a reason why he is not playing on Saturday. I just want to make that point as we go to the UR Medicine.
No, that's great. That's good to know. And like we said, the UR Medicine Sports Medicine report, we have a smaller list. Jaquan Johnson is out, but interesting to see Tremaine Edmonds pop up there. He was limited on Tuesday, Wednesday, but back to full. Lee Smith questionable for the game. But Mike, I mean, we're talking week 15.
It's incredible.
I felt like earlier on in the season, it was like a phone book for the Bills, their injury report. But now, I mean, they're in a good spot.
They are. And even when they've had those, like they lost Cody Ford for the year. And I'm trying to think, if they lost
Milano and John. Oh, not for the year. I'm just saying, like guys that missed.
You look around the league. Like teams have lost multiple guys. Look at Pittsburgh with the losses that they've suffered.
Yeah.
And so you start to say, like, I tell you, it's not just luck. This team does a great job, great training staff, great rehab facility, having that right where they are, especially during COVID. Remember what Lorenzo Alexander used to tell us about? He used to go to one place to work out, and the other times he'd go to another place for massages. And he goes, now I just can come here. It's everything is right there for them, and especially during this time. So that was a wise investment. I mean, is there some element of luck? I guess, right? I mean, sometimes the injuries are just crazy, but this team gets players back on the field. They take care of their players, and it's really worked.
And Mike, I think you make a great point. Jenna and I think we were talking to one player off the record and just saying how much the Pagulas invest into the facilities and the way they're treated, from the food that they're served is the best quality that they've ever had. And the guy had played around in a couple of different places around the league and was just saying, he's like, this is just between us, but like other places don't care about you. And, they kind of see you as movable pieces, and the Bills do a great job at the way they're treated. And he also credited Sean McDermott for the way that I've always thought that, especially when Sean came in being this defensive-minded, straight-cut guy, I thought he was more of a coach's football guy, and how much more reasonable he's become of pushing practice times later and all of those things and taking veteran days off. So, but Mike, I will say, without Lee Smith, why bother running the ball? Because he's your best blocking tight end. So definitely don't even think about running the ball this Saturday in Denver.
I do want to say I saw a couple comments. Chris saying we're getting healthy at the right time, hitting our stride. Yeah. Dave saying peaking at the right time. And Dan, you brought this up to me last week, but I mean, the Bills are a Hail Mary from winning 7 straight games.
Yeah. I mean, you look at how well they have played since bouncing back. I just think that this team, that's why I'm not so worried about an emotional letdown. I thought a lot about that. This team has been able to never get too high that they've had one of those, as you guys call them, trap games. I call them letdown. I call them letdown spots. I don't believe in trap games.
It's the same thing.
No, it's different. So I think especially with what's on the line. But yeah, this team has been playing, Colin Cowherd says they're the best team in the NFL, guys. Yeah. So they've got to be.
Yeah, they're not the best team right now. They're not. You can't say you're better than the Chiefs. Mahomes is the best player in football. Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. Look, as great as the Bills' weapons are, you can't say you're better than Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. We've seen them do it in the biggest moments, the biggest stages. Yeah. And so can you beat them? Yes. But they're the number 1 team. By the way, Jenna, the other thing we sort of alluded to, and then the game's on the NFL Network. If you're if you're watching us in Rochester, okay. We've been fighting this for 30 years. In Buffalo, or if you're in the Buffalo area, you can get the game on WKBW. They are a primary market. Rochester is considered a secondary market, like Providence, Rhode Island would be for the Patriots. Okay. The league does not allow us as Channel 13 or Channel 8 or Channel 10 does not allow the Rochester stations to purchase the right to one of these other broadcast, non-network broadcast games and put it on your channel. Now, the Monday night game that was on ABC, that was an ABC game. They own ABC and ESPN. That's why we showed it. But in terms of buying a game and using it, we can't do that. We'd love to, but we can't. So the game is only on the NFL Network in Rochester. How about this one? It's on the Yahoo Sports app. I checked this, but I still can't figure out why this is. As much as a tech guru as I am, even though my mic wasn't working, you can watch the game on a Yahoo Sports app, but not on Wi-Fi.
Because it'll know where you are?
I guess it says not available on Wi-Fi, must use your phone service. So your
hotspot?
No, not a hotspot.
Your data.
Wi-Fi.
You got to use your data.
You have to use your data. So you'd have to watch. Now, again, are there ways around it? You can try out YouTube. You can do all those things for the game. There's 2 games. There's another game on Saturday too, right? There's a night game.
Yeah, there's the
Packers. Yeah.
Packers. I can't remember who they play.
Yeah, but we'd love to. And I know we've mentioned on the news every day. We've tried to tell people, and Channel 8 and Channel 10 are in the same boat as us. It's not like we refuse to do it. They can't. Yeah. So the leagues had this rule, and I know we used to be part of the whole blackout thing years ago. We're not anymore. So sorry, but if you can get NFL Network, that's where you can watch the game.
Packers-Panthers is the late game on Saturday. Yeah. All right, well, we're talking about Saturday. Mike, you are 11-1?
I'm sorry. Did your mic cut out there for a second? Can you repeat what you just said?
I said, Mike, give us your pick.
I believe you should have said 12-1.
Oh, 12-1. I was
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh, look at that. With the graphic, it says Mike is 12-1. I'm taking the Bills close. And that's probably a few more points, but Drew Lock's a heck of a dancer. I think he can make a couple of plays. He's a better dancer than Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen went along with that. I don't know how much that'll impact the game. But Denver can run the ball. They can hit some deep balls. Like, they're going to pick on the Bills secondary away from Trey. And I think the whole idea of going and playing in Denver after back-to-back primetime wins is something. So I'm going to pick the Bills, and I'm going to say, I'll just say it, overtime, 27-24. How about that?
If you hit that, if you get that one right, I will not pick any more games. We'll end it there because that'll be the mic drop of all mic drops if he gets that right.
PJ commenting, "You dog, Mike."
For making a banner.
How about that? Who's next? Who wants to go next? Jenna, since you're in Second place.
I have the same record as the Bills. I'm 10-3. I'm also picking Buffalo in this game. I think this game will be close because, like you mentioned, the Bills
Hold on,
are coming
Dan.
off.
She never remembers what she picks, and it's on the screen, and she still isn't saying it. You picked that.
27-24. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I said 24-21 to you. I think you got that wrong. Was that Dan's score?
Nope, that ain't mine.
Oh, okay. I said on the phone 20. No, I didn't text it to you.
Oh, you didn't text it to me. I was checking.
And I asked, I was like, "Do you want me to send it to you?" And you said, "No, I got it." All right. Regardless, I have the Bills winning. I have this being a close game because of the emotions of Sunday night, back-to-back primetime games. The Denver Broncos are 5-8 on the season, but they're coming off a great win. Drew Lock played well. Vic Fangio is great in terms of that defense. It's going to be a tougher game than I think a lot of people expect, but I still have.
She's describing a trap game.
Yeah, but a trap game is a game you lose. I'm saying they win this game. You also had the score being close too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think it's going to be close.
All right.
Yeah, I originally had this game in my head when I was talking to a friend about it yesterday. I had Buffalo winning 30-17. I don't even get my score up there.
Mike, graphics.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
I just get a losing graphic. That's all. Okay, cool. I'm
Hold on.
5 on the year.
Did give me the pick. Well, the pick was
24-20. Buffalo.
And now is that a cover? I mean,
it's not a cover.
It's not a cover.
That's what the Bills are. Dan?
The Bills are about 5.5, 6-point favorites in this one. I originally thought this could be a 2-touchdown win for Buffalo, just because of I know how much is at stake in this game, but I just think the shorter week just seems a little bit tougher to get up for this. I think both teams maybe are a little snoozy in this one earlier in a Saturday week, 4:00 spot. The Bills traveling west. I don't know how much that affects it. So I'm going to go 24-20. I think this game will be – I think this is a tricky spot. I think this is a good Denver team that, again, well-coached defensively, knows all about what Josh Allen can do. The Bills aren't going to run the ball. Now, Denver is lacking their top 3 or they only have 3 cornerbacks healthy. That's what it is. They are banged up. They've had another guy suspended for PEDs. Their secondary is a mess. I think that Josh will have another solid day. I just don't know to what extent. The weather doesn't seem to be an issue. The one thing I really like about this game, I like the under. It's a 50. Right now, the total is set at 50. I just don't know how it gets to 50. I just think the Bills defense is playing too well right now. I think Drew Lock will be baited into some mistakes, but I'll go 24-20. Again, probably closer than it should be. But I like the Bills to get a win, even though it may not be the prettiest.
Yeah. By the way, the Broncos have already beaten 3 AFC East teams this year. They beat New England without scoring a touchdown. And they hung in there with Kansas City. That was a heck of a game. So that can make them dangerous. I think it can make them dangerous at this time. But the Bills have really, the closest they've come to like playing down to an opponent, I think, was the Chargers game in the second half of the year. That Chargers game, they could have put that team away. Mm-hmm. They played pretty well defensively, but they made so many mistakes on offense. That was sloppy.
Yeah.
But besides that, they took care of San Francisco. They beat Pittsburgh. Like, they've been good. They've been good. So they haven't shown that.
I think that this game would have been overlooked if the Bills were in a good spot where weren't going to win the division. I don't think this game would be as important. Like, I like the fact that the Bills are playing for the AFC East title for this game, because I think this game, if you look at the schedule, would have been one that would have been overlooked.
Yeah, but again, the Broncos are playing for jobs. They are like, this game still means a lot to them. Drew Lock, Josh Allen is the better quarterback, but Drew Lock has more confidence than Josh Allen, and that is saying something. Like, Drew Lock it is equal 50-50 that Drew Lock will throw 5 touchdowns or 5 interceptions. Like, I don't know which one it is. Like it could be either end of the spectrum, which makes them dangerous. So, and again, it's a. I know some people were commenting they need to get the running game going. Like, whatever. Like, I just don't think it needs to be. But
By the way,
I think
Jenna,
this-
it wasn't us triggering him on the run game. It's the
Oh, I
viewers.
know. We made it 44 minutes without really talking about the run game. Look at us go.
The running game. You got an MVP caliber quarterback. We're talking about the running game.
I will say it was good seeing last week against the Steelers. We know how good their defense is, their pass defense. They're rushing. Like Josh Allen was the last one standing in that game, and I think that's a huge step.
A couple of comments. Our ball 716 had a couple of them saying he thinks it's a blowout, but then thinks is asking us, you really think McDermott won't keep this team laser focused? Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think this team has the right attitude, the right leadership. They really have stayed that way during the year. And I just look at what Denver has done in some of those games. They just have had a way of staying in there with some pretty good teams. And I can see that game on a Saturday afternoon at 4:30 on the road. It'd be like in many years where somebody's coming to Buffalo in these circumstances. Yeah. And it's like, well, the Bills aren't any good, but they're playing. The quarterback's playing for his job. Like, this is what's going on. So I think the Bills will win. I think they'll find a way to win. It would be really impressive to see them just walk into Denver and toast them and just win easily. And then you're like, okay, like they're just not messing around. But I'm not saying they're messing around. I just think it's, for many reasons, it's a big game for the Broncos too. They get on national TV, even if it's NFL Network, they'll get some attention, and they're all playing for jobs. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Yes, we will. The game on Saturday, we will have post-game coverage. We'll have coverage all week leading up on buffaloplus.com as well as on the YouTube page, which we
tons of good comments tonight.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we got thank you guys so much, folks, for joining us and for the comments. Make sure to subscribe.
Helping Mike out with his mic. Like, I appreciate
I'm so glad everyone else did something.
You know what I found out, honestly? Jenna just figured out a way to mute me. She's been trying to do this for years.
Believe me, I've tried every possible way. Truly. No, all right. Thanks for joining us. And again, the game will not be in Rochester on local television, but that has nothing to do with us. You can watch it on NFL Network. For Mike Catalana and Dan Fates, I am Jenna Cottrell. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you on buffaloplus.com and Buffalo Plus's YouTube page later on.